So we've got a situation that we wanted to run through the mill today. There's all kind of things, new things to invest in, and we got this situation we're going to form in a question, and I'll go ahead and read it. I have been reading more and more about SPACs, NFTs, cryptocurrencies, blockchain. Are these the new alternative class of investments? I've tinkered outside of my wealth management purview with futures, equity, crowdfunding, and commodities, primarily gold. But this new stuff, are these viable investments? Do I need to diversify with NFTs? Am I missing something by not getting in on a SPAC? The one big thing I think we can agree on is that cryptocurrency hasn't taken hold, but the blockchain technology is viable. You surely have had questions about cryptocurrencies.
Hell yeah.
What about these non-fungible tokens that seem to be the
Now that I've not heard as much about. I mean, I've heard of them, but I'm certainly not getting questions about them. SPACs, they are coming up. Thought about starting one myself. Everybody else is. Why not?
Now, I think from a currency point of view, that last statement is probably correct. Yeah. I don't know of very many people that are really making transactions with a cryptocurrency. I wouldn't necessarily say that it hasn't taken hold. There's a whole lot of folks that are still investing there. Mm-hmm. But
yeah, if you want to start there, I mean, it's like Bitcoin itself has 70% market share in crypto, right? It's probably got the most network effects.
Most popular.
Really, the way I look at it is it's a speculative alternative asset class a la gold with a lot more volatility. Mm-hmm. But due to the scarcity itself and the technology where, it's not hard to foresee a future where there are transactions occurring in some cryptocurrency, whether it be Bitcoin or something else.
Right.
I think there's a potential there, but it does give you a way to opt out of, the monetary system in the global monetary system. No one can just say, I'm going to print more Bitcoin. Yeah. I mean, there's only so many. So in that context, if you compare it to gold, well, it's already gotten to the point where it's probably 10% of the size of the entire gold market. So even if you say, okay, it's sort of digital gold, well, what's the upside case from here? I would say probably market getting to the size of around gold, at least until it becomes less volatile and more transactional. Well, what's the downside case too? Like zero, really.
Yeah,
right.
You could.
So if you understand those risks and you want to take a few percent, you're a young guy, not risk averse. I wouldn't call you crazy to buy a crypto, but if you think you're just going to pile all your money in crypto and retire on a yacht somewhere.
Well, at this point, I think you'd have a lot more fun in Vegas if you just took the same money there.
Right.
Because until it actually becomes a currency that we can transact with, which to some degree you can now. I mean, it's not as though it's not being used that way to an extent, but it's not nearly as widely used or I would say acceptable as gold. I mean, or especially the greenback and other forms of actual currency. But
and oh, by the way, if I handed you $1 right now, would the government know about it? I mean, if you want to be truly anonymous, couldn't I just walk around with a wad of cash in my pocket and still have an anonymous transaction that didn't have to be electronic?
Sure.
I mean, and that's the thing. It wouldn't even be tracked on a blockchain. We're going to take over the world with our SPAC. That's our stated goal.
We got a real estate division now. Why not have a SPAC division?
Why not? Yeah. I mean,
hey. It just could be a spinoff from research. It's like part of y'all's. You got the research aspect, but then you got the SPACs.
Yeah.
You guys can manage that piece.
I mean, what else? Why not?
The one benefit is we're very U.S. centric in the way we think about things, but there is some pretty attractive global mobility with cryptocurrency. If you think you live in a place like North Korea or Venezuela where
they're having
who
major
knows
issues.
Who knows how much your currency is going to be worth tomorrow.
Right.
I think that presents an attractive position. But to your point, Jarrett, central banks, they buy gold.
Yeah.
They wouldn't buy it if they don't think it has some form of value, and I haven't heard of. Maybe there is. I haven't heard of a central bank buying Bitcoin yet.
I haven't either.
Well, and I think that the point I'm making too is that look, that until it becomes that, you really are just speculating. You're investing in something, quote unquote, investing in something that really you don't know. You can't determine the value, like you can a company, especially.
Right.
You can't necessarily
Yeah.
do that with gold, but it's a lot more difficult to do that. And so until we kind of cross over that threshold, I think it's going to always just be a bet you're making, which is why I made the Vegas comment.
Sure.
Right, and I think we need to jump into the NFTs and SPACs as well to fully answer the question. But to your point with speculation, I mean, I just sort of zoom out, and it was with cause. I mean, we had a deep recession. The world was on fire. But if you look at the growth of the money supply, I mean, if you look at like M1 right now, it's like the money supply is up 70% year over year.
Ridiculous. Right.
When you just throw hot money at the economy and
As
hope
our-
it finds its way into good spots,
Right.
productive spots, there's also going to be people who are willing to speculate, hoping that one day someone's going to buy the asset from them, even though
Yeah.
it
You
doesn't
don't know.
have any true intrinsic value.
Right.
Exactly.
And that's what we're seeing with a lot of these 50 times sales tech stocks, cryptocurrencies, SPACs, NFTs.
Just because you don't know what a SPAC is doesn't necessarily mean you couldn't invest. But you need
Right.
to be able to tell me about the person who is going to manage your money, getting it in.
Yeah, you're investing in the person.
right.
That's
It's the
all it
manager.
is.
Exactly.
Precisely. We really didn't flesh out the definition that is short for something, right?
Yes, special purpose acquisition company. It's basically a company with no operations.
None. Yeah.
And they
It's-
will raise money
It's
with the
just a-
intent to acquire companies in the future. And with the frenzy that we've seen in emergent tech and these companies like Tesla, all the AI, whatever the buzzword du jour is, these managers are going out and saying, all right, we're going to IPO this SPAC. We intend to acquire these private companies. So it's or even public companies in some instances. The intent initially was to give people access to more venture capital, but it's gotten more and more absurd
Right.
by the day. I mean, we're talking tens of billions of dollars that we cleared in the last year in these SPACs. It's not something I would be interested in.
No, not at all.
There's plenty of great managers out there that already have investments, and you can know what they are.
Right. And that's, if I was going to be investing my money in a publicly traded company, I would want there to be a company behind it, not handing a blank check to a manager that I don't know and may not even have, any
Right.
proven skills. What you're doing, if you do that, is you're buying the
You're
manager.
saying Colin Kaepernick doesn't have any?
I don't know what he's been doing.
Investment management
Last I
skills?
saw him, he was on the football field.
Yeah.
Well, I think most of those people, they convince them to be a part of it to try and attract more
Yeah.
investors, but they're not really making decisions, I wouldn't think.
Right, and then the question
It's the
is
Wild
who
West.
is and how much prowess do they have? And you're right, Jacob. Wild West.
It's the Wild West.
I think of everything we've talked about today, the SPAC to me is probably the one that is potentially the most dangerous. Part of it is you're giving your money to a company who's going to report to you profitability. They're also going to report to you. They're taking your money. I mean, they custody your assets. It seems.
I bet Bernie Madoff would have loved these things.
Oh
Yeah.
man,
He's probably reading about them in his cell right now.
Yeah,
just
why
thinking,
couldn't I have done it that way? And that's the bad thing, Jared. I mean, it truly is. There's a lot of risk.
Well, that's
there,
why I'm so surprised about the regulation or the lack thereof so far, because, I mean, how do they know that there's not a bunch of money laundering going on? It seems wide open for something like that to happen.
Sure.
I mean, probably not for long, but for right now, I mean, you definitely run the risk.
until it happens,
Isn't that-
they won't regulate it until it happens.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
No one's screaming at their congressman right now, congressperson right now
Yep.
Well,
about
what do you think?
these SPACs.
Next
It's
10
wild.
years, you think we get that?
Till someone goes to
no
zero,
doubt.
then they're going to be like,
We have to.
"How'd you let this happen?"
Yeah, exactly. Now it's all the regulators' fault.
Yep.
Yeah.